Record now. So welcome again, everybody, to this to our meetings. This episode of Still in Touch. This time with a friend, with the help of another member of the Refereeing Commission, the FIVB Refereeing and Rules Commission, Herpai Laszlo. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We have a very, very interesting presentation, educational, and some videos for how to be the work of the referees. And I will let Sandy and Herpa and Mr. Laszlo to do their job and talk. Enjoy the presentation. Thank you. Please.
Okay. We're calling this Trust and Being Seen to be Fair in an Age of Television. And I'm really delighted that Laszlo is joining me on this. And I'm hoping that we can do a sort of team teaching collaboration here. And I'll expect Laszlo will jump in and tell me all the things I get wrong. But anyway, so it's really about how does the referee not only make fair decisions, but be seen to be fair by players and coaches and spectators. You know, we can make all the right decisions, but we still don't earn that trust, and trust is really important. If I can go to the next slide, right? What we see here is. Let me say, first of all, I come from a very strange country, or people think it's very strange anyway. Our police force doesn't carry guns. And then a lot of people say, well, how do the people and why do the people obey them? And the answer is that the people let the police control them by consent. It's all about consent. The people trust the police to do the right thing. And in a sense, that's really what we're expecting the referees to do as well. That the referees are in a position of trust, and they have to gain that trust. They have to earn that trust from the players, the coaches, the spectators, and everybody else who's involved in the game. Now, we have to make decisions as referees, but we have to. We only get there if the players allow us to do that. And if the players really don't think that we're doing a good job, then we get problems. Now you can see on the screen here, I just pulled together some things that maybe we can say lead us towards trust. Experience, familiarity with the referee. Okay, you know yourself that if you have been on the circuit for a long time, the players know you and they know that you're going to make good decisions. So that familiarity actually gives them a feeling, well, this referee is going to do a good job. I can trust this referee to be fair, and so on. And if the referee then goes on to make decisive decisions without hesitation, does it with confidence, the body language is good, the signals are clear, and the players can see that the referee is getting into the good position to see things, that the communication from the referee to them and from the referee to the other referees and officials around the court, all of that makes an impression. And that impression, who knows what it is? It's something you can't always put your finger on, but it's important that the players see that this referee is doing a good job. And then, of course, there's the timing of the interventions. When does the referee whistle? Does the referee whistle for things that are not important? Does the referee whistle because the referee wants to be noticed? You know, all sorts of things. Comfortable with technology? Is the referee a team player? Is the referee a leader? You know, does the referee have people skills? All of that wrapped up together makes the referee the trusted person that we really want to have on the court. Okay, next slide, right? Now, for the benefit of anybody who has, these are a few of the qualities and the actions which referees need to be able to do. Now, I'd like to focus on a couple of them only. Fair. Obviously, to be trusted, you need to be fair. You need to be seen to be fair, and you need to be objective. In other words, you're not biased in any way, shape, or form. You're approachable, you're decisive, and you're calm. Okay, those factors build up a picture of the referee. In terms of referee actions, one of the most important things is communication, because communication to the players, to the other officials on the court, that lends the idea of leadership. That's where the leadership comes from. If the referee is able to communicate in a nice, sensible manner, decisively, in control, commanding, and that's a word we'll come back to. I think the word is command. Then that sets the standards that we really want to achieve. Okay, so next slide. Now, how did it used to be? Have we changed? Well, I think we have changed, and I think I hope Laszlo will actually come in on this and confirm this. But 30 years ago, when the referees were involved in matches, all we had was a whistle. We had our eyesight, we had our fast reactions if we had any, and we had the personality to direct the match. We're supported by a scorer, 4-line judges. Gradually, those things changed. Gradually, they became different. However, if you looked at a match of 30 years ago, for example, the Barcelona Olympics, you would actually see that not a lot is visibly different unless you look closely. Okay, now Roy, do we have a video for this one? And maybe Laszlo can talk us through this.
This match was played in the Olympic Games in Barcelona, and you can see how the referees looked. For example, the uniform is totally different than today, and the play was much more slower than now. The referees' activity was totally different than today. And look to the coaches. They had to sit on the chair on the bench, and look the second referee. What does he do? Today is totally different requirement about them. We can say it was played in the prehistoric time. And of course, it was played up to 15 points. And for this action, he was already warned. He accepted the warning. You can find some, so you can watch if you want.
Yeah. Okay, couple of additional things. Maybe we should be aware. Laszlo's already mentioned the second referee. Look how far from the net that the second referee went at the beginning of the serve reception. A long way. As Laszlo said, the game was a bit slower then, so the referee could actually move back to the post in time. But there was no headsets, there was no technology, there was paper score sheet, and we had no libero. So all in all, it's different, but to us, yeah, it's different. To the average spectator, maybe not. Okay, that was Mr. Stepanyan from Russia.
Roy, before we going on, it was a correct edited video, shortened video, or it was a longer original one? I'm afraid the last, it was not a shortened. Am I right?
Well, that was what you sent, but I think it's okay. We saw the video and we got the idea.
Okay, never mind.
That's right. Now, if we can go back to what it is today, in terms, remember this whole thing that we're discussing is about trust, and in order to assist with the concept of trust, we've got technology nowadays. So technology, we've got TV looking from all sorts of different angles, from high definition to Hawkeye and so on. We've got giant screens in the venue. We've got a Vocera system of headsets. We've got e-scoring. We've got coach tablets. Okay, and as I already said, Hawkeye. So these things are designed to make the game easier in some senses, but also to make the game fair and to be seen to be fair. Especially the challenge system is meant to make things seem to be fair anyway. Okay, next slide. So, okay, if we can put in, do we have a video of VNL?
Did you realize something at the beginning of the rally?
I'm not sure they can answer Laszlo. What did I tell them? Uh-huh.
It was challenge for service line, but it was signaled this challenge request after the end of the rally. So I think the crucial point of this video is that the referees should know the actual requirements or actual regulations. So they had to know, or they would have to know that after the end of the rally, it's not allowed to request a challenge for the service line. I'm talking about FIVB level. So first, in my opinion, it would have to be rejected, this request. Secondly, you have to know as first referee that in the moment of the challenge, the TV generally focuses the camera to the first referee. So be careful with your faces, your grimaces, and don't show your emotions. It's my recommendation. Sandy, something to add?
No, I agree completely with what you said. I mean, I was looking at the video, and I'm sure our colleagues will look at the video afterwards on YouTube, and you will see that there is no reaction at all from the two coaches at the beginning when the supposed service fault was made. Nobody reacted, so therefore it's quite clear that it came as an afterthought. And therefore, you're quite right. I agree with you completely that challenge should be completely rejected. And referees need to be aware that they can. It's part of their armory of things that they must be able to do. Okay, and no matter how many times the team says, "Oh, I pressed the button," it doesn't always, shouldn't always be accepted for sure. It was interesting when the tablets came in for the very first time, and we'll maybe come back to this later, that I remember sitting for an hour with the assistant coach of Argentina in World League, I think it was, anyway, and showed him how to work the tablets. And then afterwards in the match, he just kept pressing the button and pressing the button. And every time the second time he pressed it, it took off all the things he was trying to transmit. So he would press it to transmit, but he wasn't sure, so he pressed it again and that took it off. So he wasn't sure again, so he pressed it again, put it back on. So all the time he kept pressing the button, is like, just kept on tap, 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 tap. So it kept on working like that. So anyway, London 2012. Was a really first Olympics that we used e-scoring. But at that time we had no headset communication. So step by step, we were gradually beginning to build a level of expertise in technology. Now, as we maybe will come around to in a later slide, it's not always the savior of the referee. Sometimes it's not always the savior of the game either, because we kind of rely on technology sometimes when really we should be using our own brain power. So it's an asset, it's an addition, it's a support, but it's not a replacement for the referee. The referee really needs to keep making decisions himself or herself. So anyway, as I said, London 2012 was when we had the first really big e-score event in an FIVB competition of that level. Okay, it had been brought in. Andre Meyer had pushed and pushed and pushed to get e-scoring in FIVB events, and so we had it in London 2012, and it was a really good showcase event. And what we see here, can I, before we show the video, can I ask you to focus your attention on the scorer, who's in the middle, you know, second from the left, in fact. Now, the substitution has been requested, and watch the scorer's reaction and how fast she made it. Okay. The whistle has gone, or the horn has gone. Okay, in comes the score. 1, 2, 3, double, and she's finished. Okay, so she was reacting quickly, and in those days, we actually had 2 hands going up for every one. Now, the first one maybe was seen from peripheral vision, but the second one was certainly seen. And what we found was that the communication between second referees and scorers weren't always happening. Sometimes a discontinuity. There was a lack of connection sometimes between the scorer and the second referee. Now, that wasn't the case here. So this was actually a good example, but often the scorer would put the hands up and then take them away, and the second referee didn't see. You know, it was missed. So the second referee had to look again. And by that time, the scorer was busy doing something else. So this was something that we had to teach people to do, to put the hands up and be ready so the second referee didn't have to look for that. You know, and it's still pretty much the case that in some areas where there's no technology operating, that you have to apply that particular technique. You know, so technology goes so far, it helps us with certain things, but it doesn't always solve all the problems. By the way, the guy furthest from the left was probably the fastest scorer I've ever seen in my life. So he had everything done even before the players actually crossed to the sidelines. You know, he was superb. Anyway, Laszlo, anything to add to that one?
Yes, one comment. The second referee has to know that if there is a discrepancy between the data transmitted by e-score sheet and the reality has the priority.
Right,
in order to avoid any confusion, maybe the assistant scorer sent wrong data and so on. So the reality has to be followed. This is the general opinion, general approach.
It's something that we should perhaps be aware of now. In London, there was no team tablets. The coaches did not have tablets. The coaches just simply sent the players into the substitution zone, and that was the request. When that was written way back, it was clear that stepping across the line was the request. Okay, so there's no tablets. Okay, and the players just came in, and you accepted what arrived was the substitution process. But it did not prevent strange things occurring. Now, for example, there was one match there, not this one, but another match, where there was a double substitution. Involved, as I remember, it involved the USA men's team. And it was something like 12 for 9 and 8 for 4, double substitution. Okay, the assistant scorer was transmitting that information, but what the assistant scorer transmitted was 8 for 4 and 12 for 9. So that's what went into the e-score sheet, because, you know, in those days it was just drag and drop into the place. Okay. So
you can see also that the second referee doesn't have a tablet in front of him as well, so he cannot control the substitution correctly.
Yeah. So what we had to be aware of when the reverse substitution was being made, it was a single substitution. So the single substitution was legal according to what had actually occurred on the court, but it wasn't what was recorded on the e-score sheet. And the scorer absolutely panicked. She went absolutely crazy. And so it was only because of the jury members, I was one of them, who were sitting behind, who had recorded the substitutions in reality, that we actually were able to say to the scorer, relax, fix it later. The team has not done anything wrong, let it run. And so it was close to the end of the set, so we let it run, took a chance, and it worked out in our favor. But it could potentially have been a big disaster if she had persevered, if she had insisted that this was wrong, because it wasn't wrong. The team was actually correct in what they had done. Okay, next slide.
So sometimes the technology is the enemy of the referee.
Well, it can be. It can be. Now, when we reached the first World Championships, or the World Championships in 2014, by now we had still had no team tablets, but we had the introduction of the Vaquero system. The referees were not very keen about that, I have to say, at that time. They are now, but they, at that time it was a new thing. Therefore, oh, I don't understand this. But we had a much bigger extended menu of potential challenges. I was in Poland. Laszlo, I think you were in Italy. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we had not quite exactly the same extended menu of challenges as I remember correctly, but anyway, it was a new thing for us, and in those days it was still, the challenge was made by making the single, you know, symbol like this, and that was how they made the challenges. No team tablets at that particular time, but gradually, step by step, we move forward with the technology, and the technology is designed to assist. But as Laszlo said a moment ago, it didn't always do that. It didn't always work in our favor, and it depends how it is introduced and how we regard the technology as a tool and not as a master. It doesn't matter. It's not our master. We are the master of the technology, and you have to understand that. Okay. Right. We had, yeah. Okay. Alex is telling a story. Anyway, Alex, the moment. So in Japan, we had the introduction of the referee head cameras, and I think we have a short video of that one. There. Okay. Mr. Mockery, looking very nice with his head camera on. And there we see what the referee was looking at. It's quite interesting to see what the referee is looking at. If you are showing young referees where you should be looking, then a head camera would be a very useful thing to actually demonstrate. Okay, and we see the players challenging a decision that Uri has made. Okay, but he was quite clear and quite decisive. Double contact, therefore fault. Okay, yeah. From the point of view of a referee, maybe Laszlo can clarify this as well. The referees that I work with hated the head camera. They absolutely hated the head camera because if it was on the left-hand side of the head, it restricted the view of line judge number 4. And it was also a very heavy thing that actually put a pressure on the neck and made the referees really uncomfortable and actually quite sore sometimes. So, Laszlo, would that be fair to say?
Yes, in my opinion, the media, the TV want to be more and more in the game as possible. Mm. For example, in 2015, the camera was put on the head of the referee. Today we have a camera in the top band of the net.
Yep.
It's my impression that within next year, the setter of the two teams will have a camera on the head. How they see the match during the setting. So we should be prepared for everything. I hope that for the referees, it will be suspended or it will be stopped.
Yeah. You're a very bad person, Laszlo. Everybody's going to believe what you just said. Okay, let's.
An old fox as you are.
So we have moved on. Okay, so how did these items generate trust? Well, going back to the substitution system, it was to reduce the time of substitution for a player to cross into the free zone, to cross across the free zone. There had been a time, those of you who are old enough to remember this. There was a time when the substitution was requested, you had the signal, and the second referee would advance to the 3-meter line, attack line, and actually just shepherd the players on and so on. And this took some time, etc. And it was a nice, leisurely, lazy thing. But it didn't really do an awful lot to increase the flying ball time and so on. Okay, so it was a style that we got rid of. And the reason why we got rid of it was because there was always a conflict between the coach requesting the substitution and where the player was. If the player was standing beside the coach, fine, substitution was carried out. If the player was sitting on the bench, some referees said, no, they're not ready to play. If the player was running from the substitution zone, from the warm-up zone, then that caused a problem. Some referees allowed, some referees didn't allow. And that's why we made it that they step across the dotted line. That was the substitution request. Okay. Now, when we put in the e-score, Alex is correct. The system nowadays is designed to prevent errors like what I just described, the 12 for 9 and the 8 for 4 thing that happened. And the software nowadays does not allow that to happen. Well, actually, provided that the transmission is done from the tablet, that's true. If you're working in a national situation and you don't have tablets, then potentially the drag and drop is still going to operate. So therefore, it potentially could still happen at a national level. But more than 90% of all substitutions were legal anyway. So therefore, we could trust the software. And therefore, we could allow the referees to focus on the correctness of the technique and make sure that that looked smooth. And the referees really benefited from that because they were not under pressure. Nowadays, they've got the tablet on the post so they can see what's happening. And that permitted a fast exchange, which did not interrupt the match. The substitutions could be much faster now. So what we saw previously was the substitution was done one at a time. Now it can be much faster, and with the Vocero, the headsets, and the scorer being able to communicate with the referees, now we don't need to even look at each other. They don't need to focus on each other at all. So that timing issue that we had when they looked at each other at the wrong time, it doesn't happen anymore. At least if it happens at international level, important, because that's been solved by the software and the hardware that we operate. Okay, next slide, Ron. So then we have ball touch. Okay, now Laszlo said a while ago that sometimes the technology is the enemy of the referee, and it can be. You've got to think very carefully about what it is that you're showing and how you use the TV. The TV high definition cameras can see almost everything, much better than we can in real time. And if they are used correctly, and if we use all the technology correctly, then we can see things, okay, in a proper manner. But if we slow everything down, then the analysis that we do reveals that almost every touch is a double. Almost every touch is a double. And therefore, when we see things in slow motion on TV, sometimes we are actually getting the wrong impression. Okay, so there's a danger that referee decisions can be questioned because of that. So we have to be very, very careful of that and take a sense of perspective. We have to apply common sense, as it were. If we know that everything is a double anyway, for physics reasons, then we know what we should allow. And in fact, probably we at the top level, the referees have a controlled view of allowing at least 70% of everything that's happening to go unpunished. And that allows the flow of the game, and it allows the entertainment. Okay, next. So I think we're showing something about the Hawkeye lens. Laszlo, want to take us through this one?
Yes, we should know that the technology of challenge is developing. Today, the technology knows can show more and more than a couple of years ago. So, for example, this lens, if I know well, this is absolutely a new one. So in this case, I want to recommend you as a referee who doesn't work as a challenge referee to consult with the challenge referees what options the actual system now has got, and to be able to request the challenge referee to use such detailed options, because with this lens system, it was much more easy to determine if the ball touched the block or not. If I know well, this is the Arturo's video to send to Roy, and Arturo could explain something. So it's a very good tool. The referees should know to ask if the challenge referee.
Arturo, can you add to that? If anything you would like to add about the lens system? Can you unmute Arturo?
Maybe he's not here.
Maybe he's not. Okay. Maybe I put him to sleep.
Yes, it's very important with the magnifier. First, I say you also in my opinion, it's very important to ask for your with the team of Herpai to know what is the magnifier. That's why I ask always in the beginning of the match or before the match to ask. You can use the magnifier first. The second, you must use the magnifier for this case, this small case. Don't use the magnifier when it's very big touch of so. The magnifier you must use only for the difficult case. And for example, that's why I send this of Roy, because this case is very, you cannot saw with slow, very slow motion. It's impossible to saw. That in this case, you can use the magnifier. That's why. Pay attention, use the magnifiers when you need, only in the difficult case, and not for a net touch that everybody saw that there's a very good net touch or a block touch of like this. Only for the small things. That's my advice.
Okay. Can I add one more thing to what Arturo just said? I'm sure Arturo's experience is the same as mine, that we should only use the lens, the magnifier, to show something occurred, not to show that something did not occur. Because as soon as you show the magnifier, people are looking for something, and really, if there was clearly no touch, but you showed the magnifier, people would still be looking for a touch. So, would you agree with that, Arturo? You have to unmute.
Yeah, that's agree, Sandy. I say you always also when we speak after the match. Is the same also with the catch the ball. Sometimes some with the slow motion, something you can you make an interpretation. There's a block touch. That's what. Pay attention. The magnifiers is very good tools, but it is for the challenge referee is very interesting to have this. But you may think about also for the family of the referees.
Yeah. True enough. Okay, go to the next slide, right, please.
I have one comment.
Oh, sure. Sorry, go for it.
During a competition or before a competition, if you have a clinic, refereeing clinic,
yeah,
I recommend strongly that the referees and the challenge referees attend both.
Yes.
Why? Because they can, in this case, they can exchange the experiences and they can realize what the technology can provide actually.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's good comment. Yep. Okay, let's move on. So ball in and out. About 50% of all challenges, would I be right in thinking that, are ball in and ball out. Maybe that's a slight exaggeration, but certainly a lot of them are ball in, ball out. And several years ago, we used to have the idea that the first contact with the floor was the thing that determined if the ball was in or the ball was out. So first contact. But then we saw from Polsat, I think it was Polsat that I first saw it from, we saw the compression of the ball, and we suddenly realized this is really not what's occurring. And then when you began to think about the physics of human beings and what we can see and what we cannot see, we realized that when the ball compresses on the floor, a lot of things occur and we only see the last segment of that. So if we've got an image of the compression of the ball, maybe we can we go to that one? Do we have one? Yep. Okay. Now, obviously, I'll talk through this as we keep on watching this, because it's always fascinating to see what happens. The first contact could well be inside the court, but then the ball compresses and wobbles, and it compresses to its full diameter. You know, it's 20 centimeters. So if the left-hand edge of that ball had contacted the line, then it would certainly be in, even if you thought it was out. Okay, a lot of the ball actually is compressed so much, and then it wobbles. It's like a balloon full of water. It wobbles, and then having wobbled, it then rotates forwards, and then it leaves the court. Our eyes do not see that. Our of the floor, and therefore many times that we think the ball was out, it actually was in. So be aware of that, and that's one of the reasons why even although we have 4 line judges and we have a challenge system and we have technology, we have advised our referees to make a lot of the in-out decisions themselves and confirm that with the line judges. Because the line judges are no better, no worse in terms of positioning than we are as referees, and therefore they can make mistakes the same as we can. So just be aware of that. And this is something that as a referee in an FIVB competition or a CEV competition or a South American competition, where there are cameras trained and able to look at every single thing that you do and every single decision that you make, you have to be aware that many times you're going to carry the can anyway. You're going to be the final decision maker, and if you accept a decision from a line judge which is not correct, then you've made a double error. Okay, so it's as well that you are making the initial in-out decision yourself, and therefore the line judge is there to assist you, but is not there to insist. You know, they can't actually insist that they had a better view of the ball than you did. Okay, so be aware of that. Be aware of that. Okay, but I'm going back to Arturo again, since we've got him here. Let's pick his brains. Arturo, you know perfectly well that Hawkeye has got green lights and red lights. Can you tell us a little bit about what you see from? I know it's not official. I know, and I know that the screen that I'm referring to is often not next to you, but you are aware that there are close to automatic in and out decisions that can be made. Am I correct?
Yeah, correct, of course. The Hawkeye system is now very good, and sorry, Sandy, but you know, I always say you must check all. That's very important. That's also that with the Hawkeye team now is a very specialist, and then we don't have any more problem. Sure, with ball in out. It's sometimes it's very small in, but really the technology is very fantastic now. It's no problem with the Hawkeye system.
I would add to that, and maybe Laszlo will come in on this one as well. I always try and get the court measurements done before Hawkeye do any of their calibrations, because if we then decide that the court is not correct in terms of dimensions, and we ask for it to be moved or to be adjusted, it messes up completely all the Hawkeye arrangements.
Yeah.
The competition was a big disaster.
Yeah, could well be. Yeah. All right. So
real-time video camera showed totally different than the Hawkeye system showed.
yeah, and we've had experience of that, unfortunately, where we assumed incorrectly that the Hawkeye system was getting it wrong, simply because we all saw the ball was clearly in, but Hawkeye was showing it clearly out, and we could not understand why, and that may well be the reason. So we have to allow Hawkeye to make their calibrations, and if you're using a different system than Hawkeye, then you'll have to allow them to make their calibrations as well. It makes a huge difference. So, and we've touched on the challenge system. So let's look why the challenge system is there. It's determined to be fair. The whole idea that was brought in was to make sure that the players decided. The ball was put on the floor, and that playing action was what determined the result of the match, not referee decisions or referee actions that were perhaps judgmental, that were based on judgment calls. So it was meant to reinforce the ability of the referee to make decisions at top level events, because the game is so fast. The game is so fast that it's understandable that we don't see everything. So the challenge system was designed to assist with that. And it does allow the referee to direct the entertainment, which is the match, a bit like a orchestra conductor or like the commander of I don't know, a big ship or an army battalion or whatever else. And that means that we only punctuate the flow of play. We only whistle when it's a natural thing to do, when there's a natural mistake has been made and everybody agrees that that natural decision has been made. So that's why the challenge system was put in place. Okay, it's a support, but it's not a crutch, and it's not a substitute for the referee. Okay, now there are dangers to the challenge system, and I think Arturo kind of suggested that a moment ago. Some sports think that their decision making, or the referees think their decision making doesn't matter, because the review system will get it correct if the referee is wrong. Okay, now that's entirely the wrong way, in my opinion, to think about that. You must be in control. You're the commander. The referee must be in command, must be able to direct the whole operation. Okay, and you're not there to kind of, what I would say, second guess what the TV images will reveal. You're there to make an honest decision. If you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. Okay, fine. But don't second guess it, because then you hesitate. And if you hesitate, the players recognize that hesitation and they're going to go for you. They're not going to wait around for you to get your confidence back. Trust your own abilities. Now, we talked a bit about, and again, it goes back to what Laszlo said, sometimes the technology is the enemy of the referee. Okay, in some places, the tablet on the post runs slowly. Okay, it runs, I've seen this happen, and it happened once to disastrous effect to one of our top referees, that he looked at what the tablet was saying, and therefore, based upon what the tablet was saying, he called a position fault. Okay, he was wrong, because the tablet, for whatever reason, was running slow. It actually was clicking around after the event. Okay, so if he had thought to himself, okay, I know that player is back court or that player is front court, then he wouldn't have whistled that, but he did, and it caused an embarrassment to him, and it was a dangerous point in the match. So be careful of that, and trust your own abilities, trust your own brain, and don't automatically think that the technology is right. Okay, Think about what the technology is telling you before you actually react. Okay. Now, Laszlo, anything to add to that?
Pardon?
Do you want to add anything to that thing that I just said about trust your own abilities rather than trust the technology?
It's correct. Nothing to add from my side at this point.
Okay, all right. So we are human beings, unfortunately. We have conscious bias and unconscious bias. We like people or we don't like people. We like teams or we don't like teams. We like food or we don't like food, whatever. It doesn't matter. We have some kind of bias. And unfortunately, in the present, I don't know, political climate, social climate that we have, we've got a lot of things going on in the world, and it means that we have opinions, but we need to get rid of those opinions. When we walk onto the court as a referee, we are there to be straight down the middle. We regardless of our political persuasions, regardless of whether we like male, female, whatever, okay, doesn't make any difference. Okay, religion shouldn't come into it, sex shouldn't come into it, and so on. So just be aware that we need to get rid of all those biases, because fortunately sport has counteracted many of those political, social issues that we've seen in the past. Okay, so if we can get rid of that, and if we demonstrate that a referee is a referee, regardless of where they're coming. Okay, and that generates trust too. Okay, Roy, can you move on? Referee has no country either. Now, of course, that's not true, and we can support our national teams, but we need to be careful about ostentatious expressions, flag waving, speaking out against other teams. We may be refereeing that team next. You never know. Okay, so that makes sense too. I have seen referees who have been amongst their own team waving flags and whistling and shouting, etc. And really, that's not a good thing to do. Okay, next. The referee has no close friends. Could well be true. I think maybe that was true of me. I don't know. I don't think I had many friends. But we need to be equally friendly. And both coaches in a match have to be treated the same way. Even if you're best friends with one, any kind of bias or apparent bias can be seen as favoritism, and it could be accused of cheating and so on. So referees really need to avoid that. Again, an element of trust involved. Treat everybody the same. That you have a distance. You're friendly to everybody. Okay, calm to everybody. Polite to everybody, even if you absolutely hate them. But we need to be careful what we do and in view of the public, because for sure there is a camera pointed at you that you didn't realize. Next one. And again, social media is also a problem for us. We need to be seen to be serious about our sport, and we're meant to be professional or act in a professional manner and set the highest standards. Okay, because we really do set the standards. If we are not seen to be serious, then why should the players be seen to be serious either? But you need to be very careful about what you post on social media, and you need to be very careful about what you write on social media. And what I said 2 slides ago about political things, you need to be very careful of that, because it can be turned against us. It can be turned against us. Okay, next one.
Andy?
Yep.
I have to underline that you are talking about FIVB requirement.
Yes, absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Sorry for this comment.
Yeah, sure. No, I take that point, certainly about the high standards of professionalism, yes. But also it happens in my national league as well. Sometimes people actually step out of line and they criticize when they shouldn't criticize on social media. And really that does create a bad atmosphere, especially if you're going to end up refereeing that team in the future. So it can apply elsewhere too. But yes, I take your point. Yep. Next slide, Roy. Now, there's a whole series of links I said before was that the command aspect, being a commander or being in command, involves us with communication, and the communication links are the key to being that commander, that you need to be able to link properly between the first referee and the second referee. Okay, you need to be aware of how you talk and what you talk about, and are you communicating in a sensible way. Many times referees can speak too much. Sometimes referees are not clear about what they speak, and so on. So be clear so that the other referee knows what you're speaking about. Similarly, referees and line judges, you're making eye contact with them all the time. Even if you've overruled them, you're still their commander, therefore they need to be on your team at all times. So a nod or a wink or whatever, some kind of head gesture can actually mean the difference between keeping that person in the team and not. First referee and the scorer doesn't happen very often. That's a link which doesn't happen at most levels unless you've actually got headset communication. And then there could well be, and the scorer says score ready, and therefore we know that the substitution is complete, or the timeout is complete, or the administration of something else is complete. Okay. First referee and coach. Hopefully there's not a lot of it going on. First referee and captain, yes, sure. If you are approached, you need to explain something. You saw a little bit in the headset video with Mr. Mokri, and you saw that he was saying no, but you notice he wasn't doing it in this very bad rejection manner. It was saying no, enough, no, enough. I know what I'm doing. It was a softer dismissal. It wasn't an aggressive dismissal, so that communication is actually done really nicely. Second referee and coach, you need to get the second referees to confirm with the coach what was the challenge for, because too many times, certainly at the beginning of the challenge system, the coach would request something, the second referee would relay that information, that would be transmitted to the challenge referee, and the challenge referee would put something on the screen, and then the coach would say, that's not what I asked for. So you need to confirm with the coach what it is the challenge is for, and that way you save a lot of time and you save a lot of argument. Second referee and scorer, with the headsets, you don't need to do as much of the eye contact, but I still like the eye contact and I think it's good. But certainly there's still a lot of talk goes on between the second referee and the scorer. Again, the second referee is in control of the scorer. Okay, make sure that the scorer is working well, keeps the scorer on side, and so on. So there are links in the chain that are really important for the referees to maintain, and that's how the command is created. Okay, you find that in the substitution procedures we've already talked about, timeouts, technical timeouts if they exist, and libero replacements. Okay, but it's especially true, for example, if there is an illegal libero replacement and it's not noticed until later. The second referee really does need to know the scorer's job inside out, so that if the scorer gets into trouble, the second referee can fix it. And many second referees, they know approximately how the scorer's duties are done, but if they've never actually done the job, it makes it very difficult for them to correct a mistake. And that's where delays are caused, and that's where the second referees look a little bit out of position, as it were. They're not really in control as what they should be. Okay, so here we're going to see a situation. Now watch what happens here. Laszlo, take us through this.
Yes, this video is talking about the situation when the left team sent two substitutions to the score sheet, and only one player was substituted. So the second referee immediately realized the situation. He knew that if there is no delay, only one substitution can or should be applied. So after realizing the situation, he informed the scorer that only one to record. And in this point of view, it's necessary to inform the scorer, the e-scorer, before the match that if there are two requests, two substitute player was transmitted, don't apply the request automatically, but manually one by one. Because if the scorer accepted automatically, there could be a big disaster, can be confusion. If one by one, there is no problem. So in this moment, the communication was very important between the second referee and the e-scorer, and the situation was solved without any big trouble.
Yeah. Can I add a little bit to that, Laszlo? And I want you to notice how Mr. Marasek deals with it. Now, his body language is very relaxed. I'm sure he was smiling. And that's important that the second referee makes this communication to the scorer in a very calm manner. Okay, what is sometimes the case is second referees get really unnerved, to get excited by this mistake as they see it, and therefore they get angry sometimes, and that's maybe the wrong thing to do with a scorer. So you need to stay calm. Marasek stayed calm. He was controlled. Look at the body language when he walked back to his position beside the post. It was relaxed. It was not aggressive, not angry, not upset. He knew he had dealt with the situation. Okay, probably knew that she had made an error, but it was not a defining moment for her, and therefore she could relax a little bit and not panic and not feel that she had let everybody down. And that's important.
Okay, but why can Marusek be calm? Because he knew the rules. Secondly, it's his style to be calm during the match and not to be nervous, not to be in panic.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree with that.
Immediately realize the situation.
Yeah. Okay.
There is a comment from Alex Katz saying that recovering from a scorer's mistake is very difficult, for it is practically impossible to train for such mistakes.
Yeah. And therefore experience is important, isn't it?
Very important for the referees to know the procedures of the e-score sheet and how it's done.
Yeah, but also it's important. Remember what this topic is about. It's about trust, and the second referee has to trust the scorer, and the second referee this time, I'm sure, will trust the scorer not to do that again. And because the second referee was very calm and supportive, the scorer will not be forced into another error in a few moments' time because she was upset. And I think that's a critical team leader's job, is to keep the team on side without getting them too upset and without getting them too nervous and make more mistakes. And I think the scorer will also trust Marasek as well, as we all do. Okay, let's move on. So we can have confidence and we can know the rule. Laszlo's already mentioned that Marasek knew the rules there, but it's important to know the underlying principle of any rule so that you can act with decisiveness, you can act with confidence, and you can actually overrule something that has happened without worrying about it. You have a full confidence in yourself, and that's part of the art of refereeing. Knowing that that you are at one with the game. You could also say that the referee is in the zone, as it were. They're not exactly the same thing, but it's close enough. Okay, next slide. Laszlo?
Yes, if I remember well, this video is talking about the very seldom situation when the first referee overrules the signal of the video challenge referee. The challenge referee decided this ball was touch, but Uri was, how can I say, very strong, and he was not afraid to ask to ask back the challenge referee, "Are you sure it was a touch?" And after that, he checked again the giant screen, and he realized it was not a touch. And it was a very difficult situation because it was a set ball. So this is the good example that the first referee has no right to be afraid to request back, to ask back, and to overrule. But it's a very, very seldom. In my opinion, 99% of the challenge referee proposals are accepted.
Yeah, it's one of the things we have actually said to referees: don't overrule the challenge referee. But clearly, if this thing is shown on the giant screen and it looks so obviously a mistake, then clearly you have to go back to the challenge referee, as it was in this case, and say, "Look, are you looking at the correct image?" Because sometimes Hawkeye does put up the wrong image, and when I was there the last time, that they actually showed an incorrect image, and we thought, "What are you doing, guys?" The correct image had been picked by the challenge referee, so it wasn't the challenge referee's fault. The Hawkeye operator just clicked on the wrong image and projected that one on screen, and we all went, "What?" So it can happen. And so, but clearly, Mokri had actually generated the trust that we're talking about well ahead of time. And look at the reaction of the players and the coaches. It's simply questioning, but without aggression. There's no anger, no animosity, it's just accepted. Okay, fine. It's justice has now been seen to be done. Let's move on. So, okay, next slide. Okay, so referees act decisively, and that was an act of decisiveness there. If we are automatic in all the things that we do, then we can process information like that much better. You know, I always feel that there's more of our brain power is able to actually focus on the decision making as opposed to the automatic processes of signaling and reacting and so on. But don't hesitate. Many times referees will hesitate, and if a referee is seen to hesitate, then that's a signal to the players. You know, and that hesitation could be body language, it could be the signals, it could be the facial expression. Players just react, and it's just a human thing that players will react when they see a weakness. One of the things that prompted me to think about this slide was it was a ball that was in or out, and the referee immediately indicated which team to serve, and then during a sort of protest, which he may or may not have been influenced by it, but certainly he then changed his mind and said, "I'd like to do a self-challenge." That's the wrong way around. That's entirely the wrong way around. You do the self-challenge first, and then you can make a decision, and it's pretty smooth. We have a vision, an image of that later on. So here we go. Laszlo?
Example for this situation when the first referee requests on himself a challenge before any decision, and it's important. It's a crucial point. Before any decision, he requested a challenge for himself. Of course, it was funny because this match was played in Italy, and Fabrizio had no trust in his colleagues, the line judges. But
well, they don't use line judges much in Italy, do they?
That is his problem.
But anyway, more to the point, Fabrizio has a reputation, or had a reputation, and he was very calm, And again, look at the body language, the facial expression, not in the slightest bit anxious about making that decision. So absolutely correct. Okay, absolutely correct. Okay, next slide. So you're acting decisively from a position of knowledge. Okay, your knowledge of the rules is important. Your knowledge of what's on the challenge menu is important. You know, that's crucial. You know, so when you are challenged a touch in the backcourt and it's not on the menu, you must be able to reject that. You must be able to reject that kind of challenge. Next slide. Okay, we've already discussed that. So you ask for the verification immediately. Okay, vision and focus. Many of us get caught out a little bit by the speed of the game. And it's important when you're teaching young referees to get their head in a good position, to get their eyes stable, to form a platform, and to be looking at the place where the action is going to be, not come to it as the action takes place. Otherwise you get a blur, and it's what I call camera shake. So don't do that. But if you anticipate, if you know the game, if you smell the game, if you understand the game, you know where the setter's going to put the ball, you know where you're going to be looking, you know where there's a possible touch, you know where the ball's going to potentially land, and so on. These are the anticipations, anticipating the event, not anticipating the actual whistle, as it were. There may not be any whistle involved, but you're looking at the right place at the right time. And that's when you can make an appropriate overrule as necessary. But there's certain things that irritate coaches. And they irritate players too. It's when you strut around and be a little dictator. We're not that anymore. We're different now. If you're not focusing on the big picture, if you're looking at the small details that are not important, if you're somebody who loses control because of the opposition coach, it happens. Unfortunately, some coaches can get under our skin, and I'm sure you've met some of them. A referee who interferes at the wrong moment, at set point, all of a sudden the second referee advances whistling and waving a finger at the people in the warm-up area and say, no, get back, you're 5 centimeters outside the box. You know, those are the kind of things that attract attention of the wrong kind. My old friend Jim Coleman used to call it peripheral refereeing. And it's true, it's refereeing on the edges. Focus on what's happening in the court is important. If you're someone who doesn't let the players play because you're calling faults that no one else sees, if you're very nervous, no confidence, that doesn't lead to trust. If you're someone who's not consistent, that doesn't lead to trust. Nobody knows what you're applying anymore, and therefore they cannot modify their behavior. So they're getting anxious. And it's worrying for them, therefore they cause problems for you. And what causes problems also is little known rules that are applied and nobody understands why you made that decision. But I mean, you're correct legally, but maybe that's not the right time or the right place to make that decision. Okay, so actions which are a bit strange. New rules or interpretations that nobody else understands. Calling a fault out of the blue, no one else has seen it. Calling a halt to a particularly exciting passage of play. I mean, the rules actually suggest, and the referee guidelines suggest, that we should allow some modifications to ball touch if it's an exciting thing, or if it's in a bad position. Laszlo in particular, I know, has written about this. So Laszlo, I want to pick up on that one about what we mean by allowing a little bit of extra if the player is in a bad position to play.
I pass.
Okay, all right. I don't know. I don't think we have a video to show that, but I think everybody understands.
We prepared a lot of things, but you didn't ask to prepare.
All right. Well, okay. It was just a thought. But anyway, importantly, The buck stops with the referee. The referee is the final decision maker. So let's keep that in mind. And because the action is so fast, they need to make the line calls. They need to make the touches. They need to confirm with the line judges. Okay, but you're not making a decision in isolation. You're still operating as a 6-person team. First referee, second referee, 4 line judges. Okay, you're still operating like that, and it's better to make a decision with several people, and that gives much more weight to the decision than making it all by yourself. So you need to keep that team together, and that means accepting a decision sometimes, but overruling some other times. Okay, next one. So remember, I talked 2 weeks ago about the good referee. A good referee is able to defuse situations when they arise, but an excellent referee would be able to communicate that before there is a need to defuse. So that's a step up. So the excellent referee knows when a situation is about to develop and gets rid of it before it occurs. Okay, that makes a difference. That makes a huge difference. So most of us are making decisions at a sort of reasonable level, but you need to be able to go one step further. So here we have a video.
Very nice action by the line judge number 4. It creates a delicate situation beside the nets, but fortunately the first referee was enough attentive to see the ball where it was landed, and he make the setter and the captain calm. Very easy, very gentle way. Also, in that time, there was no challenge. There was no Herpai. There was nothing. It was in 2014, if I remember well. And it's very important that to realize the situation again and to make order among the players.
Yeah. Okay. I can't add anything more to that. I think that's exactly what occurred. Exactly what occurred. You know, the referee made the decision. Referee overruled. Referee got down and didn't tower over the player. I think that's important to say. And therefore, it's much more of a face-to-face conversation as opposed to me big person, you little person, you'll do what I tell you kind of discussion. So this was a much more friendly explanation, a reasoned explanation, and he was able to calm the situation down quite nicely. Okay. So next slide.
Example for this. Sorry, it was a very good example for this. And we have videos when the first referee calls the two game captains, and without any communication, only whistling to them and make a signal, please be calm, but without any communication. So in this case, it's no sense to do it.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was good, and this is where the referees need to be aware of how not only what they say, using as much technical language as possible so that they don't actually add a word or two that's misinterpreted, but how they say it. So it's all about using eye contact, facial expression, body language, and having a clear vision of the action itself. As I said before, anticipate the event and get your eyes looking at the right place at the right time. Now, just in regard to that, I mean, I do remember in Laszlo's multimedia material, there is an image, short video clip of Umut Sukulu, and his basic way of dealing with a situation where somebody complained about a ball touch decision that he made was simply just to look at the player, make good eye contact with the player, but not in an angry manner, but simply as a serious manner. You know, he was definitely in command of the situation, and he basically just moved his little hands like that and said, "No, my decision." And he pointed to himself, and that was it, done. You know, he didn't need to do anything. He didn't need to show yellow cards or anything like that. He simply just calmed the situation down. Everybody knew who was the boss, and so things just went on.
This one.
Oh, there we go.
Signal of authority. Yes. Don't worry, I will decide. It's my duty.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, and look at the expression on his face. I mean, he had every confidence that what he was doing is correct, and nobody was going to challenge him. There was a smile there, you know, and it was like, okay, I'm your dad. I'm your dad. I'm just telling you, just be calm, you know. So it was nicely done, you know. And these are the kind of things that we need to be aware of. And if we can follow any of those little tricks, then that's great. But the situation was defused, but in Umit's case, he anticipated the challenge. He didn't get one because he dealt with it ahead of time. There was no possibility of Denny Cespedes to actually do that in his case, but he dealt with it a different way. So he simply had to react the way he did, and it was both of them were good. Both of them actually did the right things there, so it was nice. Okay, next one.
May I have a commercial here, Sandy?
Of course, yeah.
That was a good example to find the videos for Umit. That there are a lot of videos on YouTube.
Yes.
Uploaded by Roy, so anytime you can use it if you know what is there, and you can use.
Yeah.
Commercial closed.
Okay. Now, in regard to what Denny did, I assume that this is what he did, and this is what I try and tell people to do. That the speed of the ball is too quick for us to actually see it go from the net, the spike at the net, to the floor. So therefore, we can't follow the ball. We have to go ahead of it. We have to jump. And this is the kind of thing that our eyes do. So we go from the contact point to the point where it lands on the floor, and we get there before the ball does. So if we can get there before the ball does, we then see if the ball is in or the ball is out, based upon what we described earlier with the Polsat images. So the ball compresses and then leaves the floor, but at least we're seeing where it compressed, because we're seeing that initial contact. We're not only seeing the leaving from the floor contact, but we're seeing the starting contact as well. So that's crucial, that we use a technique that jumps ahead, anticipates where the ball is going to land, and gets there first. Okay, next one. So be at the right place at the right time, get your head steady. That's the takeaways. Change your focus as required. Narrow focus, wide focus, you know, you're looking at a whole different variety of places to look. Anticipate, and so on. All the details there, I won't go through all the details on that screen, but you can read it yourself when you see it later. Just be aware, as a line judge, one of the things that happens is that line judges will take their eye off the ball if a player runs close by them. If a player gets in the view of the line judge will look at the player and will take the eye off the ball. So that's sometimes how they miss things. So just be aware of that. Next slide. So if you take good optical position, the ball, that's good if you are able to do that as second referee. So anticipate that the ball is going to fly beyond the post if you're second referee. Anticipate the movement to get out of the way, but anticipate that if you get out of the way but you don't look at the ball and you don't look at the player, then you have lost that particular battle. You need to keep your eyes on the ball and be aware of what the ball is doing, so that you can give proper information to your colleague referees. and see if the ball travels back inside the antenna, travels to the opponents over the antenna, all sorts of things. Okay. Okay, so it's useful to know how any game develops, what kind of structure it's got, what kind of systems of play there are. It's important for you as a referee to continue to study. The e-learning platform on the FIVB site is actually designed as a continuing referee education. You should go back and revisit that or look at new stuff on the site. Obviously, we have problems with the site at the moment because COVID has made everybody go home. But the reality is it's designed to be a resource that you should dip into and keep on doing that. And it's not for volleyball, it's for volleyball and for beach volleyball too. So every single one of the things that we said tonight, apart from maybe ball in, ball out, can apply to beach as well, I'm sure. Okay. But the final slide that we've got gives you an idea of some of the things. Again, I won't go through all of these things here, but it's to do with speed. The flying ball is only 16% of a match duration. We want to make that more. There's a lot of risk in the service. We have short rallies and so on. So we need to think that the game, if we're going to make it popular or continue to make it popular, needs to be that entertainment. It needs to be allowed to happen. And therefore, as referees, we're a little bit different to what we were 30 years ago in the Barcelona games. We need to be a little bit more relaxed. We need to be a little bit more allowing of the play. Since Barcelona, remember, we've actually had the first pass relaxed. We've had the libero. We've had all sorts of different things, including the net service, just to make the game flow better. So that's something we need to keep in the back of our mind. So next slide. And just remember that you're under constant imaging microscope. It's like the lens that Arturo referred to earlier. If you look at the number of YouTube videos available, there are a fantastic number of video clips that you can access. And it's healthy for any things, as we are doing now. And I'm sure there may be some energetic discussions after this. Unfortunately, I don't have a bar here, but discussions in the bar are always the best place. I'm conscious of the fact that when Franz Luderis was speaking 2 weeks ago, I think now, he talked about having short meetings after the match, and maybe a longer discussion later. And this is true. We don't have to have a huge, long, analytical discussion analysing every single fault after a match. A short one to look at things we could have done better, and then we go away and think about it, is useful. Discussions are useful. They're not as we used to do. The referee would stand up and then we'd tell them every mistake they ever made in front of everybody else. So we don't do that anymore, and I think that sport is all the better for that. I think a good discussion in the bar is always good. The alcohol loosens the tongue, but the world is a visual one now, and just be aware that when you're refereeing, there is always a camera pointed at you. I'm always amazed at the number of people that have images of me in an awkward position, and I thought, ooh, I wish they hadn't taken that photograph. But anyway, there we go. So that's our world, and what I would ask, if you would be that referee who is trusted, okay, and if you can do some of the things that we discussed, then that's fantastic. Laszlo, want to add the last thing?
Yes, I just want to underline that as referees, we cannot escape the influence of the new technologies. This technology can help a lot to the referees, but it can be enemy, like I mentioned before. Why? First, because the referee's mistake can be discovered. Secondly, some referees think that Okay, it's not necessary to concentrate too much because the challenge or the Hawkeye or any other technology thing can show what happened on the match. But it's a very bad image that if there are 10 challenge on a match, all 10 are lost by the referees. I can imagine that some very slight touches by the blocker cannot be seen by the referee. Okay, I can accept. But there is not. If there is a big penetration under the net, or there is a big touch on the net, is not seen by the referees. We can think that if they are really in a good position, it was a good nomination, these referees, or not. So I say always that please, boys, girls, concentrate on a match as referee, as there is no technology. Try to see everything, what you can, and if sometimes the challenge can help you, can confirm your decision, or can help to avoid referee's mistake in a match, okay, no problem. So it's my recommendation that I concentrate on a match 100% if there is no technology. That's all from my side.
No, I agree completely. I agree completely.
Allow me to show you some clips that I just added as we move through the presentation. First, as you said, in slow motion, catch ball or not, in slow motion you can see one thing, whereas your eye can see probably something else. Or a double or a catch. If we go it again.
This is a delicate point that the challenge is requested for net touch, and during the video challenge, you can realize a catch or double or something like that. If you can consider this or not. That is delicate.
Yeah, good.
So this is about the technology that can give you
good examples, Roy. That just like we said before, and if you see things in slow motion, it's difficult. The one area where the slow motion technology is really useful is the ball on the floor, because when you see that in real time, it's so fast. I'm sure Arturo would confirm that too. Real time images of ball on the floor is really almost impossible to see sometimes, and you have to see it from four different angles. In fact, sometimes as slow motion to see that yes, it did actually touch the floor. So that's a very useful image. But it's not always as you can see there. You look at that and you think, you know, that has to be a catch. But then when you see it in real time, it's probably so quick, you know, it's probably the same ball contact duration as an overhand pass, you know. So it's very much a subjective thing. That's a judgment call which is made in real time, and therefore the referees should not be criticized for that, because it may well have been a legitimate contact at the time. We are not even seeing in that one there whether or not both hands were in contact with the ball at the same moment. You know, it looks not. It looks like it came out from one hand rather than the other. But in real time, how do we know? And anyway, if there's any doubt at all, as we have discussed many times before, we should not whistle if there's any doubt at all. If it's a grey area, don't whistle. Let the players play.
I have something to add. That is the responsibility of the challenge referee, what to show on the giant screen. To show only the situation what was challenged, or the whole process or the whole footage.
Yeah.
I prefer to show only the case which was requested, which was challenged, unless the first referee requests intentionally to show a longer footage in order to check if something was doubt. For example, it was presented the video from the USA-Poland Vienna match, if I remember when Vital Heinen was here.
Yeah.
When the ball rebounded from the block, from the Polish block, if this ball touched the USA spiker or not. So it was intentionally requested by the first referee to present the whole situation.
My question is for you. So you said that if we see it as a challenge, the challenge referee shows it. So we, as a first referee, can we make a decision for ball, carried ball, or double contact? I mean, ball handling, based on the videos, on what we see.
Can I suggest what we said to the challenge referees in the challenge referee webinar was basically only show the very, very limited image. Don't expand it, because then you can see things that you don't really want to see. If you only challenge for net touch, then you show only the net touch. If you challenge for touch, you show only the touch. If you expand to show other things, the first referee really shouldn't be directing the challenge referee to do that. I don't know if Arturo has any requests like that from referees, but I would recommend that they don't do that, because they can get themselves into a real mess if that was the situation.
This video I send, that's typical, but first I am agree with Herpai. First we must check the whole action. That's very important, because also the speed of the ball like this. But this video is asked by the first referees. That's why, to learn something. But I am agree with the slow motion. You must decide that is carried the ball, but really it's too difficult. And then I confirm, and I am agree with that. The challenge referee may show the small intents, the small frame of the point. Don't be longer. That's no interesting for nobody. That's if you are longer with the image, that's begin always troubles with the coaches. Always. That's the 3 video. For example, I am there that in the World Cup in Japan, there was with Mr. Sunsak, and then he asked to me to take the WhatsApp, because that we speak about this for Argentina or for Mr. Anderson, to speak what is your opinion of this ball. But really it doesn't matter, because we must see also the speed of the ball. That yes, in the slow motion you can, oh yes, he catch the ball, yes, okay, but in the match
never we saw this ball.
You see, wait, hop, stop, it, boom, boom, it takes care. Okay, but in the slow motion, it's terrible.
Okay, Roy, anything more?
Yeah. So for the communication of the first referee, Laszlo, you were talking about this video, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, absolutely. Showing hand signals, making calm without any communication, it's nothing. So even the
Yeah.
Roy, it was not fair, but okay.
No, it's okay. Sorry. I'm doing some publicity to my channel, to our channel. Sorry.
Okay.
No, I think that's good. That's a very good comment that Laszlo made earlier, and that really clarifies it. Sure.
I think you can see the player underneath with his back here,
Number 15.
looking, and he's pulling his shoulders like, I don't know what he wants from me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in this case, there is no trust for the first referee.
Correct. Yeah.
It's nothing.
And another video that we were talking about, I think, that stops the rally.
Susanna?
The second, yes.
Whistling for a double fault.
A little bit strictly. By all guidelines, it cannot be called.
No.
Yeah, and in regular motion again.
So the quick movement, big effort to reach the ball, and the slight double.
Yeah.
Why not to let them play?
Yes, it's one of these things when there's a surprise whistle, and you know immediately that it's not regarded in the same way as everybody else, you know. So, yeah, I mean, he got away with it because he was able to smile at the end, but I think it was a nervous smile.
Probably.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much. We arrived to our end of this meeting. And I will stop the sharing right here. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Mr. Laszlo. Thank you very much, Sandy, for all this information, for all this very, very informative and very, very interesting presentation. I enabled everybody. If anybody has questions or remarks, you can unmute yourself and join the meeting to have some comments or questions, please.
They're all asleep.
Everybody's ready.
Always a pleasure with you guys.
Alex,
I would like to make a comment, please, based on my experience for the last 10 years working with eScore sheet and being a programmer and debugger of this software. Today, the eScore application is very, very easy to use, which causes some of the scorers, not experienced ones, to lose their focus. Which normally is very easy, especially if you have a touch screen. You just press the button, start rally, and everything is simple. But the moment you lose your focus, what will happen a mistake. And recovering from mistakes is impossible to learn because there is no way to create those things in advance.
Yeah.
So when you as the referee are coming to the match, try to talk and understand how the scorer is, how much experience is the scorer. It will not on FIVB level, but definitely on CEV and CEV Cups levels, you can see scorers which are not very experienced. And then you need to understand and create some kind of a conversation to give him some more confidence or in a say that you can help them, which also requires from you guys to know the job of the scorer, especially how to correct mistakes. A couple of years back, there was a couple of things on FIVB site with examples of how to correct mistakes and go through history and so things. So I would rather say, guys, to Laszlo and to you, Sandy, work on these things as well. Give that information to the referees. They are very helpful.
Okay. I wrote that one, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. I can understand that you wrote those. And like in everything, that old joke, how do you get to Carnegie Hall is practice, practice, practice. So the scorers is also the practice depending on how much you have inside the country in national leagues or so. But when you're coming to the match, still the scorers. The same also goes for the supervisors and jury members.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree. Yeah, a lot of jury members actually don't understand the system. To be honest, they don't know what the score sheet does and how to make a correction if it goes wrong. But
it is not simple to make a correction during the match, especially under pressure.
Yeah.
Believe me, I know that. I've been teaching my e-scorers for many years how to do those during those matches, and we don't have e-scorer in the country.
Laszlo was going to raise a point.
This is one of the risks that the referee delegate or referee coach doesn't sit at the table, probably helping to solve the situation created by the e-scorer. But it's only a private opinion.
You are correct. As the scorer manager in all our international matches, I always sit behind the scorer. And to be able to come in and to do something, just even if referees don't know what to do or the scorers make a mistake. So, yeah, I agree with you, Laszlo, completely. Sorry.
I don't know if you're aware that when we were training the scorers in Japan, we had the reserve referees often sitting with the e-scorers because of language issues. And what we discovered was that we had to be very, very clear in what we said, not big explanations. We had to reduce the number of instructions to the minimum so that the scorers could understand, very, very simple ways of being directed to do certain things in certain ways. But you're right, Alex, it's very, very difficult. Unless the scorer is very experienced, then mistakes are difficult to correct and they take some time. And also, in addition to that, often we actually had to have the programmers from Data Project sitting beside the scorers too, if there was a mistake or if there was some kind of problem which arose. So it's a technical issue, and it requires a technical solution very often, as well as a knowledge of what the rules of the sport are about. Yeah.
In your opinion, if the reserve referee who sits next to the scorer sees the scorers doing a mistake, can the reserve referee intervene and try to correct or stop that mistake from happening?
How do you stop something that's already happened? It's not so easy.
I'll tell you.
The score is wrong. How does he know?
Well, I can tell you from my experience where I was a reserve referee and I saw that there was a request for substitution after a substitution that was done before. And the second referee didn't notice that it was the second request without a rally. And the score sheet, the e-score sheet showed, an error. It was showing a notice that it is a second substitution without a rally, something like that. Do you want to continue? And the scorer pushed continue. He did not alert the second referee or did not alert for some kind of a mistake like that. And I tried and I stopped it. I tried to alert also the second referee, but then after the match, the referee coach came to me and said that it was a mistake for me to intervene because it's the problem of the second referee and the first referee alone. That I could not intervene from my work as a reserve referee. So my question is, I think that the match is above everything, and for the match to be correctly managed is above all rules of who does what. But in such case, should the reserve referee intervene or try to correct?
Right. Okay. I'm trying to think of the situation. Laszlo's original point about the referee coach not being at the table is important. When the days when I've been a supervisor and a technical delegate as well as a referee coach, so I know the situation, and I was always the person who directed the reserve referee to do certain things. you know, like go and tell the scorer that that's not correct, go and tell, and etc. So the reserve referee basically acted as a messenger between me and the scorer. That's not easy when the referee coach is somewhere in amongst the 12,000 spectators. So technically, it's not one of your duties. I'll be honest with you. And there must be other ways of communicating this error to the second referee. You don't even have a microphone, so therefore you can't communicate it that way. Alex was shaking his head furiously. I noticed that, and I don't know how to resolve that particular problem unless Laszlo has a solution. Well, actually, I do know, I shouldn't know this, but I do know that some of our challenge referees have actually whispered down the microphone to the second referee, pay attention to this, this is not correct, you know, so that can happen that way. But challenge referees are different from the reserve referee, who actually is often not sitting beside the scorer, so therefore maybe not in a good position. But, you know, any solution, Laszlo?
In my opinion, officially, the reserve referee has no right to do it. But if he is enough close to the score sheet, or he can really realize, he can find an unofficial solution somehow to inform or to send, to say, to make a signal to the e-scorer or to the second referee, so somehow to make them attention. But officially, you have no right to do it. You can make privately, but if they don't accept your private signal, okay.
Understood. Of course, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Well, think about that some more. That's it's not an easy solution to your question, but we will think of it some more, and I'll maybe give you a private answer later, Roy.
Okay.
And
please.
And guys, remember that technology has the bugs. You know, it's not always working well.
Yes, this is true.
I've been doing that for 42 years, you know, including teaching computers.
But this situation can happen also with a normal score sheet, with a normal score.
In a normal score sheet, it is very easy to make a correction. You just, you do it, like they say, with a pen. That's like all the different other things.
If you realize a mistake.
If you realize a mistake, and mistakes happen, like what you described during the presentation, when in the days before the construction, the days before the tablets, when you have less information, and you've been dragging substitutions and stuff like this, or exchange of liberos in addition of things. But with the software, you need to know how to correct a mistake with the software. So you need to learn what to do. Arturo talks about to ask how to use the challenge system. You need to learn the system to understand all the different things. And to do that, you need to practice. And how you practice those things is almost impossible. Just to give you an example, I asked last year from Emanuele Albero, the software guy in Data Project, to create a training for the golden set. How you run golden set in CAVs, because there is no training and there is no way the scorer to learn how to do it. And there is a procedure, but you need to train yourself. You need to try to do those things, but it is not on the training or the standard things that we can do over there. So the practice and the confidence that you need to have in a scorer that he knows his job. His job is very important. So that was my major point. Talk to the scorers. Ask them. Feel what they know and know. Not on the FAVB big events. Big events, it's always easier. You have clinics, you have trainings, you have stuff. But if you come in for a couple of matches or one match, and you need to do it. You need to understand if the scorers are working with the software in the national competition, so they know what to do, like in Italy or like in Russia, like in Turkey and other places, or you don't. It's a completely different story.
key point of our success is the communication.
Of course.
Sure, sure. Roy, over to you.
Yeah.
Anyone?
Anybody else with any comments or questions? Well, I guess we covered all points from all directions and everything all together. Thank you very much again, Mr. Herpai and Mr. Steele.
You can call me Laszlo from this point, okay?
I'm still recording. When I stop the record, I will call you, for sure. Thank you very much, very, very much for all this information. We have so much learned and so much more to do. We'll be in touch again and we'll see you shortly. Have a safe week and God bless you all. Thank you very much again.
Okay.